Hello, I'm Grant Hedefin, Global Education Director for NauticEd, and what we're going to do in this video, it's an introduction for you, the instructor, the on-the-ground person, the person in the boat that's working with the students. It's an introduction for you to meet NauticEd and figure out exactly how it all works, and just to sort of get to know maybe our philosophy a little bit, and then we'll dive into some actual real technical details of what you need to do when you work with a student, how to sign them off, and what the student expectations are and what your expectations are. So let's get started. So first off, just let's talk a little bit about NauticEd and what our philosophy is, and just getting to know us, but also we want to get to know you. So anytime you've got a question or anything, we're right here. You can pick up the phone and give us a call, and we'll put the phone number on the screen right here. One thing we do know about you is that you're a people person, and you wouldn't be in this business if you weren't a people person. So we know that you enjoy working with people, that you're a hands-on kind of person, and you really are passionate about helping that student become competent on their sailboat. So that's what we know about you, and so let's get to know a little bit about us. And so what NauticEd is it's a new way of bringing sailing training to the industry. Now, it's not a new way of training. This is done all over the world in almost every industry. It's just that somehow somebody left sailing and e-learning and interactive e-learning behind. So that's what we've done. We've picked up the ball and gotten rolling with it. But it's not about just e-learning. What we're trying to do with this is really integrate the entire experience for the student. So if you take a look at PADI, the scuba diving organization, they went online with their courses years and years ago, and first there's a little bit of pushback from the school saying that, oh, you might be taking away some of the training, but really what it did was brought more people to the scuba diving industry. It made the education accessible, and so scuba divers were starting to show up at the scuba diving schools and wanting to do more practical, wanting to buy more equipment, wanting to upgrade to the next level inside scuba diving, and that's exactly what we're doing here. We're taking people right out of their regular lives with their desire to get into sailing, and we're making it available right to them, and then bringing them into the industry and bringing them into sailing and putting them on your boat so that you've got access to those people. So when we start talking about market share, we're really starting to increase the number of people that are wanting to get sailing, and we're doing that through accessibility. So first off, they start out at home. They're in bed, 10 o'clock at night, their kids are in bed, they're not quite tired, they've got their iPad out, they're searching through the internet, and they come across sailing. And they go, honey, I think we've been talking about this. I'm going to do this little course here. And they do the little course online, and they go, this doesn't seem that difficult. Maybe we could get into this. They do another course, they pass that. All of a sudden they're starting to get really jazzed up, and they wanted to get into sailing. So that's the point where they're going to start seeking you out and calling you and saying, okay, I want to get some training. So it's what's needed in this industry, in the sailing industry, to start to drive some more people into it. If you take a look back at like Kodak, who is Kodak? The only way Kodak exists anymore is they're in a Paul Simon song. They failed to embrace technology. And so any company we know, and this is proven, any company we know that fails to embrace technology is just going to go by the wayside. And it's just that they're bringing on board technology. It's what their people, their customers expect. And so somebody coming to sailing, they're a white collar person, they're wanting to get into sailing, they're ready to buy a boat, shell out some decent money, and all of a sudden they come to this sailing training, and it's just not done the way they expect. The way they expect is that in their corporate job, they have got e-learning. They learn about their company of e-learning, they go through modules and they learn about that. And even an example, a friend of mine the other day was just telling me this, exactly what I was talking about. He was in bed, he wants to improve his drumming skills, so he's got his iPad out and he's looking through and he's searching through some YouTube videos, and he finds a couple of YouTube videos on how to be a better drummer, and then that led to a website, and that led to some courses. And he said, before I knew it, in my bed, I pulled out my credit card and I spent $240 on a complete set of lessons for drumming, and he was happy about that expenditure. So that's where we're coming from in this, and it's bringing the theory into the student, making it accessible to them, but then also overlaying that with the necessity for them to get experience, and so that's where you're starting to come in. So we're dropping them onto your boat. They've already done some courses. They know what the theory of it. They know what should happen. They know what should happen to the wind. They know what should happen when they've got their hand on the tiller or on the wheel, but they haven't experienced it. So that's where you're coming in. You're putting the time in with them, their hand on the wheel, on the tiller, and they're coming to you much more knowledgeable. And that's the importance of it, is that you can spend more time with the practical stuff with that student on the boat, and instead of trying to say, well, that boat over there, you see they're on port. Well, a port boat gives way to a starboard boat. You don't have to be doing that. What you can do in that situation is say, okay, what is that boat? Okay, that boat is on port. We're on starboard. Okay, so who gives way? And the student will know the answer to that. So that's the difference, and it really comes down to just us removing the obstacles out of the way, getting the theory taken care of, and then bringing them to you. And so that's where you come in, and instructors to us are extremely important. We want you in the field, on the boat, and teaching the students that we bring to you, or students that you've brought to us. We want you taking them out on the water and getting them really experienced and getting them competent, and I'll talk a lot more about competence in a little while. So it's just obvious, right? This is what we're talking about here is just obvious. So let's move on from that. Now, one of the big things that we are real big proponents of is this whole certification versus a real resume, and versus a competent sailor. So just having a certification, it doesn't mean anything, and especially if you take a look at the yacht charter industry, a certification to them doesn't mean anything. Somebody can show up with a bareboat charter type certification. Yacht charter company, you know what they're going to do? They're going to say, great, fine, but please hand us your resume. They want to see how much experience that student or that client has. How much time have they taken the boat out? What size of the boat? How recent were the boats that they took out? Yes, they have done some theory courses and some certifications. That's great. They understand the rules of right of way or give way and things like that. But they've got experience, and so that's what the yacht charter company is always looking for, is experience, and that's where we come from. If the yacht charter company won't put somebody on a boat that's worth $500,000, then that student is not competent. And we know that. So we really drive experience, and you can't rank up through our system. You can't get a bareboat charter certification in 1 weekend or 2. You've got to have experience on a boat. It's got to be a bigger boat. You've got to have lots of experience. You've got to have experience as master. Even for a skipper, you can't just take a course and say I'm a skipper and get a 1 weekend sailing. You've got to log your experience, and so we're coming from that angle, and the only reason we can do that is because of technology, right? People log their time in their electronic logbook, and then we run an algorithm versus that log time versus their theory that they've taken. So the experience comes up and the theory comes up, and the experience comes up and the theory comes up. So that's where the ranking system clicks in. So I just want you to understand that we're not an online company. We want to actually work with you and embrace your teachings to that student, and then recognize them for that. So we're building the resume for the student, and the resume is theory courses, the resume is experience that they've logged on a boat, and the resume is the practical sign-off that you've done. You've taken them out and you've signed and said, I deem this student's practically competent. So let's dive into some details, and specifically, just so you know exactly what to do, what buttons to push, how to log in, all that kind of stuff, what's going on with the student, those kinds of things. So first off, if you take a look at our website, you'll see sailing courses, and What you'll see on there is two sort of sets. One's a la carte, that's sort of down below. It means a student can take any course they want to. They can take an anchoring course, they can take a electronic navigation course, they can take a coastal navigation course. But if you look across the top, what we've done is we've bundled those courses together into a logical series. So the skipper bundle, that's skipper course and maneuvering under power course for a big boat skipper. The bareboat charter master bundle, we've added some other courses into there, bareboat chartering and anchoring and coastal navigation, electronic navigation, so they buy those bundles. And then captain, the same thing, there's some extra courses in there. But again, we don't give that rank to that student until they've done the course and actually added time to their logbook, and being able to, for you to be able to sign off on their competency is really important. So that's how the rankings themselves. So just in the details, the student to get what we call as a qualified crew member, and that's a person that doesn't necessarily want to skipper a boat, but they want to be able to be a better hand on the boat, understand some things. And then we've got a crew course in there. The next rank system up is called a skipper small boat, and that's the skipper small boat course. That's all they need to do. Go through that. They have to log a certain amount of time, and if you take a look, we use a leveling system. So level 1 is 10 days out on the water, and half of those as master of the vessel. So skipper small boat, 10 days out on the water, half of them as master, and the boats, half of them have got to be on a boat greater than 20 feet long. Okay, that's not much. So level 1 is not really much. It's really introductory. You're just sort of getting started. You're getting out there. Level 2 is 25 days, and again half on the water. Level 3 is 50 days. Level 4 is 100 days, and level 5 is 200 days. And again, all of those, half of them as master of the vessel. So that's for a small boat. And then the skipper, what we do is we just move that up. It's the same leveling, 10 days, 25 days, 50, 100 or 200, but there's a requirement to be on a boat greater than 25 feet, so for half of the time. Then there's bareboat charter master. You can't get bareboat charter master until you've reached level 3. That means you've logged 50 days out on the water, and it's on a boat greater than 28 feet. And half of the time has to be as master as well. And then, so you can't be a bareboat charter master level 1. You can't be bareboat charter master level 2. You can only be bareboat charter master level 3, 4, or 5. And that works. You know, that's what a yacht charter company expects, and that's why every yacht charter company in the world, they take a look at our student's resume, and they say, okay, you're a bareboat charter master level 3, we know what that means, you've taken these courses, you've logged 50 days out on the water, yeah, we're going to accept you because that's what we expect from all of our clients anyway. And so, and the same with captain, you can't be captain level 1 or 2, you have to be level 3. Now, where we bring in with you is what's called the competency mark. So you're taking the student out, and you're going out with them for a day, 2 days, 3 days, whatever it takes, and when you deem them competent to a certain ability, that's where you're going to log in as the instructor, and you're going to find that student, and what they do is they give you a logbook code. It's not their password. You ask the student for a logbook code, and they make up that code, and they enter it into their profile, and then they give that to you. So you need their email address and their logbook code. When you log it as an instructor, you type in both of those. That brings that student up, and then you mark their ability. So if they are a qualified crew, then you mark that. If they're a small boat skipper, you mark that. If they're a skipper or a bareboat charter master, you mark those things. What the requirements for the student is, the software will actually grey out the ranks so that you can't mark them as skipper if they haven't reached the theory courses. If they haven't done the theory courses for a skipper, then you can't grade them as a skipper. You could only grade them as maybe small boat if they've taken that course, or even just qualified crew. If they have done all the courses for bareboat charter master, then that will ungrade, and you'll be able to sign off on them as a bareboat charter master practical. So you can't sign off on them practical until they actually have completed those theory courses, and that makes sense again. So there's additional requirements on the instructor, on you. You won't be able to sign somebody off as a bareboat charter master unless you've completed those courses as well. And again, that makes sense. You've got to know what the student is going through. You've got to know what we expect in terms of theory knowledge with the student, and so you'll see it. If you can't, it'll show your rank in there. If you can't sign somebody off, it's probably because they haven't done the theory courses, or you haven't completed all your theory courses, and there'll be notes in there and you can see that. That's no problem. So now let's talk about competency. And this creates actually a really good opportunity for you, and I'll give you an example. I was working with a sailing school in Portugal just recently, and they took a whole bunch of students out, and they were all doing their skipper, their RYA day skipper certification, and they came back, and the instructor came up to me, sitting in a restaurant, and he says, you know what, I'm just not going to sign them off. I'm going to give them all a competent crew rank, but I'm not going to sign them off as skipper. They just are not ready, and they've been out on the boat for 5 days. So what I want to do is really give you the permission right now is to not fail these students, but to say, you know what, you're good to this level, you're good to this ability, you're good to a qualified crew member, but I really do think to be safe, to be competent, I want you to go away and learn this. I want to get some more experience, and at that point, after that, I will sign you off on a skipper. Or I'm not going to quite sign you off on bareboat charter master yet. You're good, but you're not that good. So we've got some skills to work on. So this is a really good way where you're helping these people come through the ranks, start from where they are and where they are a little bit shaky and incompetent and nervous and a novice. And it's your ability to bring them through and not just sign them off on one weekend. Right? That's not where we want to go. We want to really have some good education and some good competence out there. So I'm giving you permission right now to fail as many students as you want, but use that as an upsell technique to bring them through, and I'm sure your boss at the sailing school will be quite happy with that. But let's do it properly. Let's take a think about what we all should be doing responsibly in terms of teaching people to be out on the water, to be sailing in a bay with big tanker ships going past, lots of other boats going through. And you know, I remember the first time I went out sailing, I was pretty young, but coming up, sailing along, and here was the entire yacht club fleet in a race coming down at me. So, you know, that made me pretty nervous at that point. So we want to be able to work with those students and get them to the point where they're not nervous, and deliver a proper responsibility certification and resume to them, so that they're actually signed off. They're signed off as a skipper. With their proper theory courses, they've got the right amount of experience out there, and you've taken them out and you've really deemed them your personal guarantee to that student. It's like you're saying to that student, I personally guarantee that you are competent to the skipper level, but I'm not going to guarantee that you're competent to the bareboat charter master level. Okay, so that's good. A couple other things. The rating, the student will rate you after you've taken them out and you have clicked a button that says that you deem them practically competent to a certain level. They will be sent an email. It's a congratulations email. Thanks very much. Congratulations. And then it will ask them to grade you as the instructor. Were you friendly? Were you knowledgeable? Was the boat clean? And those kinds of things. So that system will ask you, and that's going to give you some great feedback. So you're going to get an email from the system, and it says that your student just graded you to this level, and these number of stars. And that email is going to come to me personally. It'll go to you, and it'll go to the sailing school principal. So that sign off from the student goes to us at NauticEd, goes to you, and goes to your boss, and we can all take a look at how everything's working and how your teaching is going. So it's going to give you some good feedback. It's going to give your boss, your sailing school, some good feedback, and it's going to give us some good feedback of how it's actually working in the field. And you know, we're not expecting this to happen, but if we're starting to get 1, 2, 3 stars coming in from students about instructors, well then that's an easy thing for us to fix. We can call you up and say, what do we need to do to fix this, or we can call up your school and say, what's going wrong with the process here. So we can monitor any school in the world purely from the feedback that we're getting from students, and it's just slotting in a little bit of technology. It's using what eBay uses or Amazon. You look at a product, you see that it's 5 stars, you're going to buy that product. If you see that's 3 stars, 2 stars, you're going to think about it twice. And so what's happening with this email, it's also going to post that feedback from that student onto the website, onto the NauticEd website about that school and against your profile. So here's what happens is students are going to be out there searching the internet, looking for sailing education and sailing training, and they come across a blank basic school website and blah blah blah, here we're fantastic, we're great, but all of a sudden they're going to come over to NauticEd, they're going to see your school on NauticEd, and they're going to see your profile, and it's going to have 25 students, 30 students, all saying that you're 4 and 5 stars and that they had a great experience and you're a fantastic instructor and you're friendly and you know what you're doing and it was entertaining, but they really feel like they gained a lot of stuff out of it. So their comments are going to go right in there. Now, we also have a way of dealing with crazy people, and we know there's crazy people out there. So if you have somebody that's crazy, just call us, and it's easy to take that one off. So that's the feedback system, and that's really that speaks to your marketing as well. So we're starting to help you get a social profile out there that people are really going to start appreciating, and it's going to drive students to you. So we're helping you build your own personal business inside your school that you're working with. So that's pretty exciting. So okay, so there's a couple other things. Badges, you might see on our website that we do badges, and what we're really excited about badges, and it's been there's been a high uptake rate with the students. So what I want you to do is just sort of log in as a student and just take a look at badges, take a quick look through that. But what we've done with badges, it's an amazing piece of technology that we've been able to introduce, and what it does is it helps the student, it promotes good BOTA activity with the student. So what we did was we came up with about 100 different items that a good boater should be doing on their boat or going out sailing or whatever. So including like checking your fire extinguisher, checking the turnbuckles, checking for chafe, checking your anchor rode, those kinds of things. About 100 different items we put together and bundled them down into different badges. So there's a safety badge, there's an activity badge, there is a education badge. So as they do these different things, they get points awarded towards a badge, and if enough points get accumulated, then they get awarded that badge automatically. And so it'll show up on their resume that they have a safety badge or a good boater badge. Now what that does is it takes a student that doesn't know too much about boating. Who knows as a brand new boater that you need to check your turnbuckles and make sure that your anchor rode is wired off properly? They just don't know these things. What about checking your anode? Those kinds of things. So what they're going to do is get points, get badges towards these things, and what happens with the technology is really amazing. The points expire over time. So if it's time to check your fire extinguisher in 6 months' time, it's going to deduct that point, and if enough points get deducted, that it's going to be sent an email to the student, and it's going to say you just lost your safety badge, and so they're going to log back in and start to see, oh, I need to recheck my fire extinguisher, I need to recheck the road and recheck the turnbuckle. So what it does is it creates good boater activity. It trains the new student, the new boater, in actual fact an old boater as well, to do the right kinds of things to as they're starting to go out sailing. And it's not necessarily even just for a boat owner. There's badges there for just activity, education, those kinds of things. So just take a look. And what I want you to do is really start to promote those badges through your students, and I think they'll really appreciate the educational value out of it. It's badges with us, it's not a gimmick. This is actually an educational way to get person to do the right kinds of things. So That's badges. Now, let's also talk about RYA and the ICC certification. So, ICC was created by United Nations under Resolution 40, and it's the International Certificate of Competence. So, United Nations created that, and then a whole bunch of countries signed it. And so, what it means is that if a country signed it, anybody sailing in their waters needs to have an ICC, the International Certificate of Competence. Each one of those countries that signed that resolution, they organized a sailing body in their country to be able to test out and issue that ICC. So, for example, in the UK, the Royal Yachting Association was assigned to be able to issue the ICCs through the MCA, the Maritime Coast Guard Agency. Now, what that does, that's a good thing. We've got competent boaters out there and they're being tested. However, what it also means is that any country that didn't sign the resolution, including the United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, they didn't sign that resolution. So that means that there's no sailing body in those countries that is allowed to issue the ICC. So nobody in America, nobody through South America and North America can issue an ICC. So that created a bit of a conundrum, so the Royal Yachting Association stepped up and they said that they would issue ICCs to citizens of other countries that have not signed the resolution. So that's a good thing. It means that United States and Canadian citizens and Australians, New Zealanders can get the ICC through the Royal Yachting Association. And what it means is that to get the stamp, the ICC stamp, the student has to be competent. And we've been talking a lot about competence today. So they have to do the theory. The theory they do is the Royal Yachting Association Day Skipper Theory course, and that's what NauticEd provides. And NauticEd is an approved RYA supplier for that course. So the student does the theory, and then they've got to do a practical sign-off. Now, they do a practical sign-off only through a Royal Yachting Association instructor. So perhaps that might feel that might leave you out. No, it doesn't, because the student has still got to be competent to be able to pass that assessment. So what we're talking about, if you're not an RYA instructor, first off, start thinking about maybe you should become one. And that will actually give your school and yourself an edge up in the market, especially in countries where you don't have a lot of RYA schools around. You'll be able to issue the ICC, which is really great to do that. So we really encourage you to either become an RYA instructor or start getting into the system and seeing that you're preparing the student to be competent to be able to pass that test. So then we can just bring in an RYA instructor, they go through the assessment, they pass, and it's done. Now, the ICC assessment is not a gimme. It's certainly, there's going to be tides, there's going to be navigation, there's some very strict requirements around that, and that's why we require the student to go all the way through the Day Skipper course. The RYA Day Skipper course is very extensive. There's about 40 hours of training in that, but those students coming out of that course really are up to speed in theory. You're going to be providing the practical, get them up to speed on the practical, make them competent so that they have ability to pass it, and away we go. So that's how we're involving you into the RYA ICC certification process. So let's sort of summarize, and let's just wrap it up here. You can kind of start to see, I know there's not a number called a gazillion, but we really have invested gazillions of dollars into this, and you can start to see it's not just an e-learning platform. We could have gone out and just bought an e-learning platform and dropped a bunch of courses into that, but that's not what we've done, and it's not what's needed in this industry. What's needed in the industry is exactly what we've done, is bring together all the practical and bring you into the fold, and bring in the badges, and bring in crewmate authentication, and all the software that we've brought into it, and having an iPhone app where people can actually pull up their app and log a day of experience right on the dock, right on their app. That kind of investment is what we've created. So I hope you're getting appreciation for that, and you're getting the value of all of that behind you, behind the scenes, that you can actually bring right to your student and say, here it is. And so it's kind of our philosophy, right? is we're not about issuing weekend certifications. Come out with a weekend and we'll give you a certification. We're not going down that road. We won't touch that road. What we want to do is bring the student in, handhold them all the way through and raise them up in their ability and their competence, and have you sign off on their competence and have the student feel like they're gaining a proper way of going through it to get the confidence that they can get to the ability level that they want to get to. So, and again, the ranks, qualified crew, small boat, skipper, small boat, skipper, bareboat charter master, and captain. You can't rank up until you've actually logged the experience, and then your sign off on that is going to make them competent, and the yacht charter company is going to be able to see that. They're going to take a look at the resume of that student and say, okay, they've taken these courses, they've got all this experience, they've been signed off by an instructor. You know, that's the kind of student or kind of client that they want to be able to take out their $500,000 boat sailing around the Caribbean or the Mediterranean or whatever. That is that's the ranking and the leveling system. You saw that levels 1 through 5 and the number of qualifying days that they needed to be able to do that. One thing we didn't talk about is the shortcut to level 1, and that's where you come in. We've figured that very easily, very obvious, that if you take a student out and after a certain amount of time you deem them competent, but maybe they haven't done the 10 days to get to level 1, but you still think they're competent, well, that's a shortcut to level 1. So the moment you sign off on that they're skipper or small boat skipper, that they are competent, then they're automatically going to jump to level 1. And that gets them to the rank of skipper, so they actually start taking the boat out and feel confident that they've reached this rank and been at least gotten to level 1. Now, level 2, they still need to get 25 days out on the water. So that's it. I think that we've gone through the resume, we've talked about responsibility and what we want you to take the responsibility to fail students if they need to be failed, to raise them up, handhold them through the system and guide them and show them that we've got this whole process of taking them from wherever they are and then raising them up responsibly through a system. Thanks very much for tuning in, and again, if you've ever got any questions, we're right here. Give us a call, send us an email. We're really ready to take any input from you, and thanks very much. Bye.